This guy has a skill that lets him upgrade artifacts in his second life, but before that, in world-class dungeon, Su Ming, widely known as the God of Slaughter, just wiped out the world's oldest S-rank dungeon, the Death Den. After taking down God-tier aberrant beasts deep inside, he finally stepped out, completely exhausted and worn out. The moment he appeared, he noticed something was off. A group of warriors stood nearby, watching him far too closely. Their eyes stayed locked on him as they made their demand clear. They wanted the artifact he had obtained from the dungeon. What surprised Su Ming wasn't their greed, but their confidence. They knew exactly who he was, yet they still told him to prepare for death. As they spoke, the pieces quickly fell into place. This wasn't a random ambush. It had been carefully arranged by Jiang Xuan, someone Su Ming had once trusted and teamed up with since the day they awakened. Jiang's plan was simple and ruthless. He wanted Su Ming stripped of his power and robbed of everything he had gained. The realization hit hard, and Su Ming's anger surfaced immediately. He told Jiang and his men that if they wanted the artifact, they could come and take it themselves. With that, he revealed the divine ring of defiance, letting its power surge through him. The warriors noticed the shift right away. They prepared to rush him, but Jiang raised a hand and stopped them, saying the plan wasn't finished yet. Everything was unfolding exactly as intended. That was when Ren Xiaoman appeared from the sky. Su Ming didn't expect to see her there. She rushed over and hugged him, saying she had heard someone was plotting against him, and came to help. Su Ming calmly told her not to worry. With a divine artifact in his possession, he believed no one there could truly threaten him. Still, one question had been bothering him. He asked how Jiang and the others had managed to find his location so precisely. Ren answered him without hesitation, by stabbing him in the abdomen. She coldly told him she was the one who had sold him out. Shocked, Su Ming demanded to know why she had turned against him. Before she could say more, Ren activated a spell. Jiang laughed and declared that everything was complete. He ordered her to activate the prison formation. Ren immediately moved to Jiang's side as chains burst forth from Su Ming's wound, binding him in place. In that instant, Su Ming understood that Ren had betrayed him long ago and had been working with Jiang all along, waiting for this exact moment to seize the artifact. Realizing he had only been a tool for their ambitions, he cursed them. Without hesitation, the warriors rushed in, intent on finishing him off and claiming the ring. Suddenly, skeletal figures emerged from the ground, blocking the attacks. A woman named Ji Yao stepped forward and shouted for them to stop. She told Su Ming not to give up. Jiang sneered when he saw her and said she was throwing her life away, insisting that no one could survive against the number of masters present. As the fighting escalated, Jiang drew his blade and struck Yao. Su Ming cried out as she collapsed. When Jiang moved in to deal the final blow to Su Ming grabbed the chains binding him, enduring the pain as he shattered them through sheer force. Those watching were stunned as he unleashed a divine-level technique made possible only by the artifact. Su Ming rushed to Yao's side and asked why she had come, even after all the times he had disappointed her. Weakly, she reached up and told him that if he was going to die, then she would die alongside him. Holding her, Su Ming declared to everyone present that he swore on his title as the God of Slaughter to hunt them all down if he were ever reborn. As he retreated toward Death's Den, the others panicked and tried to stop him from taking the artifact away. Instead, Su Ming removed the ring and threw it aside before leaping back into the dungeon with Yao in his arms. Later, he regained awareness and wondered if he was dead, only to find himself inside the academy. Even more shocking, he was standing at the 127th awakening ceremony. 18-year-olds were being called up one by one, their futures decided by the results of their awakening. Su Ming looked around, recognizing every detail. Everything felt real. He realized he had returned to the age of 18. As the ceremony unfolded exactly as he remembered, he smiled, relieved to know he had truly been reborn. Memories of betrayal surfaced in his mind, just as Jiang Xuan completed his awakening as a magic hammer warrior. With an 8-star innate attribute, Jiang was immediately celebrated by the students, many praising his background and talent. Su Ming simply watched him coldly. Ji Yao soon appeared and told Su Ming she had been searching for him. He stared at her, surprised, and she asked if something was wrong with her face. He told her he was congratulating her in advance, and added that he was glad to see her again. Before she could ask more, her name was called. When Yao touched the heavenly steel, it revealed that she had awakened a hidden profession, necromancer, 7-star level. The crowd was stunned. 2 hidden profession awakeners in the same group felt almost excessive. Finally, Su Ming was called forward. As he walked toward the steel, his classmates whispered that there was no way an orphan like him could become a 3rd hidden awakener. In the nation of Blue Star, awakenings had become a defining moment ever since the first generation decades ago. Those who awakened became elites, gaining power, wealth, and authority, but also facing brutal dungeons and deadly beasts. In his previous life, Su Ming had awakened as the god of slaughter despite growing up on aid and scholarship. Now, standing before the steel again, he expected to prove himself once more. When he touched it, the steel reacted violently, making everyone think a 9-star profession was about to appear. Instead, the divine ring of defiance emerged from the steel itself. Su Ming caught it and realized the artifact had followed him through time. A status window appeared, labeling him as the strongest beast slayer, with a mythical profession known as Sword God. The crowd buzzed with confusion, unsure what profession he had received. Zhang wondered why Su Ming wasn't moving at all. As Su Ming examined the window, he noticed something unexpected. His profession had changed. He scanned his fingerprint and saw his golden talent listed as sublimation of all things. His potential far surpassed his previous life. However, when he checked his skills, the list was empty. As he attempted to interact with the system, impatience grew among the onlookers. The system finally responded, scanning the ring of defiance. A burst of light shot into the sky, and everyone saw the result. Su Ming was star level 10. However, his final assigned profession was sword controller. The crowd was stunned. A 10-star level was unheard of, but sword controller was considered a low-tier profession. When Su Ming returned, his classmates mocked him, saying he would need twice the effort to keep up with others and would likely end up as nothing more than support in combat. Yao, however, smiled and congratulated him sincerely, calling his talent incredible and saying she believed he would grow strong regardless. Su Ming thanked her and told her that the others reacting the way they did was exactly what he wanted. She didn't understand what he meant. Soon after, Ren was called to awaken, drawing cheers from the crowd. Yao admired her, calling her the school's beauty, while everyone eagerly awaited her result. Su Ming quietly walked away, saying he wasn't interested. The memory of Ren betraying him without hesitation still lingered. As he left, he reminded himself that revenge would come. Walking through the streets, he noticed everything was the same as he remembered, except for his new profession. Checking his status window again, he found his concealment skill, one of the 4 skills from his previous life, had returned at level 1. With his past abilities now slowly resurfacing, Su Ming decided he would keep his true strength hidden this time, determined never to be used again. Based on how things had unfolded before, Su Ming expected a novice dungeon challenge to appear the very next day. He already knew it would be easy for him. Still, he also remembered that a specific boss had to be taken down during that event, and that meant he needed proper equipment. Elsewhere, Ren was staying with Zhang in a hotel suite. She teased him, saying he was being playful for inviting her over right after the awakening ceremony. Zhang, however, was clearly irritated. He complained that Su Ming had stolen all the attention at the ceremony because of his star level. Ren quickly soothed him and said it didn't matter. She pointed out that Su Ming's high stats meant he could still be useful to them later on. To prove her point, she showed Zhang her phone, reminding him that Su Ming used to like her. With a smile, she typed out a message she planned to send, intending to pull Su Ming back into working with her. At the same time, Su Ming arrived at an equipment store in the city. He noticed students from nearby schools browsing the shop, which told him they had also just completed their awakening ceremonies. While looking around, he overheard a group excitedly discussing the Tyrant Frigid Sword, a pricey diamond-grade weapon rumored to freeze monsters. As Su Ming walked past them, he quietly found it amusing, knowing from past experience that the sword was actually a fake. Before he could move on, a woman named Zhang Lan from the Zhang conglomerate approached him and introduced herself, claiming she knew him. Su Ming couldn't place her at all and said so directly. Lan didn't mind and explained that she wanted him to help her sister, Zhang Yuning, during the upcoming novice dungeon. To her surprise, Su Ming declined without hesitation. Lan reminded him that he wasn't exactly wealthy and said she could cover the cost of any equipment he wanted. In response, Su Ming calmly pointed to a frosty sky sword priced at 1 million advent coins. Lan frowned and said he was making things difficult, questioning whether he was worth that price. Su Ming reminded her that she was the one who had promised to meet his request. He then added that some situations couldn't be solved with money alone and said Yuning would need to give it her all during the dungeon test. Lan's guard nearly stepped in, but she stopped him and left. The people nearby were left stunned by how boldly Su Ming had handled the situation. Soon after, Su Ming received a message from Ren. She claimed she had a change of heart and wanted to meet him on the rooftop. Seeing that events were still unfolding exactly as they had before, Su Ming accepted the invitation. After that, he moved to another section of the store that sold sword stones. It was widely known that most sword stones were worthless scraps and rarely turned into graded weapons. A store assistant tried to warn him, but Su Ming said he was fine taking the risk since the stones were cheap. Using one of his skills, Eye of Intent, Su Ming examined the stones one by one. The skill allowed him to see fundamental details hidden from ordinary people. Eventually, he found the one he wanted and bought it for just 50 advent coins. Yongding, a wealthy troublemaker, and his lackey noticed what Su Ming was doing and mocked him for turning down the Zhang conglomerate's offer just to buy a scrap stone. Su Ming decided to test them and proposed a wager of 5,000 advent coins, betting that he could extract a silver weapon. They laughed it off, saying he must be out of his mind, but still agreed. Seizing the moment, Su Ming activated his Eye of Insight and drew out the weapon hidden within the stone. To everyone's shock, a black iron crimson edge sword appeared, a low-grade silver weapon that absorbed monster blood and restored its wielder. Su Ming looked it over and remarked that it was a solid weapon, just right for his upcoming date. Yongding finally realized he had been outplayed. He could only watch as Su Ming casually explained that the sword carried a lifesteal effect, meaning he wouldn't need a healer at all. With that settled, Su Ming asked for the wagered money. Yongding hesitated, then paid up anyway. The receptionist examined the weapon and commented on how rare it was, mentioning that no one had pulled a decent sword from raw stones in years. Su Ming then asked her about scabbards and bought one using the 5,000 advent coins he had just won. His status window immediately notified him that the scabbard would slow weapon wear by 50%. It also asked whether he wanted to activate a hidden materialization function. Su Ming declined, saying he planned to raise the weapon's grade himself. On the way home, he checked his status window again and wondered why his sword god profession didn't come with any direct skills. Instead, the profession talent tree only showed sublimation of all things, a one-time ability that could upgrade any loot. After a brief pause, he decided to use it on his sword. The weapon changed instantly, gaining an additional effect called Bloodthirst. One ability allowed it to restore health after striking an enemy, while the other temporarily boosted his stats by 5 points for 30 seconds. After reading through the details, Su Ming activated the hidden weapon materialization feature and noted that he was now fully prepared for the next day's dungeon raid. Later that night, Su Ming went to the rooftop, where Ren was already waiting. She teased him for arriving late, but her expression shifted when he suddenly threw his sword toward her. It landed nearby, close enough to make her uneasy. She asked what was going on, clearly shaken. Su Ming said he had come to settle things. Ren looked confused and said she had asked him out because she thought he liked her. She claimed she couldn't understand why he was acting like this. Hearing her words, Su Ming remembered how she had first approached him after the awakening ceremony, how she showed concern, stayed close, and eventually started dating him. Those memories had once meant a lot to him. Now, knowing the truth, he told her directly that he was aware of her arrangement with Jiang and how they planned to use him. Ren tried to deny it, but Su Ming cut her off and called out her act. That was when she dropped the pretense, saying that without his talent, he wouldn't have even been worth her attention. She warned him that he would regret insulting her. Su Ming responded calmly, saying he could expose her connection with Jiang and ruin the image she worked so hard to maintain. Furious, Ren grabbed his sword and swung it at him. The weapon's bloodthirst effect activated on its own, leaving a slash across her face. Ren screamed, overwhelmed by both the pain and the damage to her appearance. Su Ming retrieved his sword and remarked that it suited her better this way, adding that this was where things ended between them. Ren shouted that Jiang would deal with him. Su Ming walked away, telling her that Jiang could try whenever he wanted. Before leaving, he added that the cut symbolized the end of whatever feelings he once had for her. Elsewhere, Principal Wang prepared students for the upcoming novice dungeon raid. He gave Su Ming a starter pack along with some money. Su Ming swallowed a marrow-strengthening pill from the package. He wondered if the principal had given it to him out of pity because of his sword controller profession. The taste was unpleasant, but the effect was immediate. He leveled up and gained a passive talent that allowed him to master all sword techniques without restriction. On his way to the dungeon venue, Su Ming planned to show everyone what he was capable of. Once he arrived, many students tried to recruit him, but he turned them down, saying he already had a team. Ji Yao overheard this and felt disappointed, since she had arrived early hoping to team up with him. Su Ming quietly told her not to join him, explaining that he was going after something risky and didn't want her involved. While they were talking, a man named Yanzi introduced himself as a level 9 demon hunting ranger and asked to team up. Su Ming recognized him from his past life and hesitated. Before he could respond, Yao stepped in and said she was already teamed up with Su Ming. She sent the others away and added that she could handle herself. Just before 7, Principal Wang addressed everyone through a live broadcast as the dungeon portal opened. He explained the rules, saying points would be earned by clearing challenges and that everything had to be completed within a day. As he encouraged teamwork, Yao suddenly noticed Su Ming was gone. When the event officially began, students started murmuring that someone had already entered the dungeon. Su Ming, meanwhile, was descending through the portal, feeling a sense of familiarity. In his previous life, he had rushed around collecting points. This time, his goal was different. He intended to face the dungeon's hardest challenge, the hidden ultimate boss. Inside, he noticed his spawn location was different from before, which explained why the terrain, routes, and monsters varied between challengers. He avoided an elite tree monster along the way, choosing not to waste time on minor threat. His focus was on the hidden boss. After checking the map, he picked the fastest route, knowing his early entry gave him an advantage. Around 7:30, Jiang Yuning and her group appeared elsewhere in the dungeon. The area felt unusually quiet. Suddenly, they saw a student being chased by a massive frenzied blood rat. Panic broke out. They scattered, but within moments, 3 of the 4 were taken down, including one with a 6-star rating. Outside the portal, concern spread quickly. If someone at that level couldn't last, the danger was clearly real. The announcer immediately urged the remaining students to form teams as fast as possible, warning that those already inside would need support. Meanwhile, Jiang Yuning, now the only one left from her team, kept running until she completely lost her sense of direction. Just as she tried to steady herself, she caught sight of a massive ape monster nearby. The creature sprang toward her with clear killing intent. Terrified, Yuning cried out for help. Before the ape could reach her, several sharp slashes cut across its body. Su Ming stepped in, intercepting the attack with ease. While others in the dungeon were struggling against monsters, Yuning felt a wave of regret for not staying hidden. Watching Su Ming deal with the ape so effortlessly, she assumed the fight was already over. Su Ming corrected her, telling her the ape was still alive and warning her to be cautious. He made it clear he wouldn't step in again if things went wrong. Yuning didn't hesitate. She ran off to look for reinforcements, which was exactly what Su Ming wanted, space to handle things alone. Activating his eye of insight, Su Ming quickly understood why the ape had survived his earlier attack. It wasn't a normal monster, but a mutated ape king. That explained its resilience. The creature charged at him again, moving far faster than expected. Su Ming dodged smoothly, then decided to match it in speed. He activated Divine Shadow Step, a skill from his previous life. In an instant, he closed the distance. As the ape tried to counter, Su Ming slipped behind it, landing controlled strikes to draw its attention. When it turned and leapt again, Su Ming decided it wasn't worth dragging things out. One clean strike ended the fight. The system immediately rewarded him with a linear slash scroll, a low-tier bronze skill. Su Ming considered it ideal for a novice dungeon. Right after that, he was awarded First Blood for being the first challenger to defeat a monster. Moments later, every participant received a system notice announcing that a sword controller had made the kill. Some students from Su Ming's academy suspected it was him, while others brushed it off, pointing out that sword controllers from other academies were also participating. As part of the announcement, everyone received a healing potion. Hearing his achievement broadcasted, Su Ming noted that he needed to be more careful and activated his concealment skill to stay under the radar. Moving deeper into the forest, Su Ming spotted a pack of monster wolves and decided they were perfect for testing his new skill. He activated II/, focused his mind, and drew his sword in one smooth motion. A flying arc of energy shot forward, cutting through the wolves before they could react. One after another, they fell as experience points poured into his system window. He continued clearing monsters efficiently, pushing his total experience to 8,000. At exactly 9:30 a.m., Su Ming reached level 9. The system notified him that he had earned the title Legend of the Hungry Wolf. He calmly reviewed the notifications and acknowledged how effective the skill was, especially when combined with his sword's scabbard, which released stored energy the moment the blade was drawn. Curious, he decided to push it further. Channeling the stored energy, he released a crescent-shaped slash toward another group of wolves. This time, something unexpected happened. A massive level 10 Wolf King emerged from the forest and deflected the attack with ease. Elsewhere, around 8:30 a.m., other rookies finally began entering the dungeon in teams. One group encountered a mutated field mouse and fought it with everything they had. The battle was chaotic and there were losses, but they eventually brought the monster down. Excited, they celebrated the experience points and the defeat of a special monster. Riding that momentum, they told themselves they couldn't lag behind the person who had drawn first blood and sent them healing potions earlier. Almost immediately, the system sent out another announcement. Someone had claimed first blood on a leader class monster. Even more surprising, it was a level 9 fisherman who earned the title Leader of Leaders. Unease spread through the group as they began to rethink how dangerous certain professions could be. 10 minutes earlier, Su Ming had been steadily wearing down the Wolf King. From his point of view, the monster wasn't particularly impressive. After a final decisive strike, it collapsed. Su Ming remarked that it was no match for someone who had lived through this once already. The system congratulated him for defeating the Silverback Wolf King. He received 500 experience points, advanced to level 10, and saw multiple skill proficiencies increase. Additional loot appeared in his inventory as well. Meanwhile, other rookies finally managed to deal with their own enemies. Yong Ding realized just how much effort it took to handle even a basic pack of hungry wolves. Thankfully, a dungeon title reward, a scroll that boosted attack, arrived at the right moment and helped them survive. Thinking about how a level 9 fisherman handled things so easily, Yong Ding grew increasingly irritated, muttering that the dungeon was making a fool of them. Not long after, he tossed aside his worn-out novice machete, complaining about how much money he had wasted when he could have bought a better weapon. His lackey tried to praise Su Ming's luck, but Yong Ding snapped at him and vented his frustration, blaming his slow progress on the dead weight in his team. He muttered that if he ran into Su Ming inside the dungeon, he'd settle things then. Eventually, they went back to grinding experience. Elsewhere, after reaching level 10, Su Ming triggered his primary profession advancement task. The system informed him that the task would be assigned randomly based on his current situation. Rather than feeling uneasy, Su Ming felt relieved. In his previous life, he had left the novice dungeon too early, causing his task to scale to an E-rank dungeon. He hadn't been able to complete it until much later, which reduced the rewards. This time, things were different. The system assigned him a task to defeat the Guardian of Red Rock Cave, an elite monster. Seeing that the location was still within the novice dungeon, Su Ming relaxed. The task felt well within reach. With a confident smile, he invested his accumulated points into agility. When the stats surpassed 100, the system congratulated him again and granted him a Sword God profession skill called Sword Martial Mastery. It was a passive, low-grade platinum skill that allowed him to equip any sword-type weapon without level restrictions. Back at First Academy in Xuan City, a board member reported to Principal Wang about the compiled rookie dungeon data, highlighting standout talent. Principal Wang scanned the list and asked if any information was missing, noting that Su Ming's name wasn't there. The board member assured him the data was complete and then pointed out the anonymous challenger who had drawn first blood. Based on timing, she suggested it was most likely Su Ming. Principal Wang paused, thinking about Su Ming's seemingly average performance and questioning his own judgment for giving him a novice gift pack when he wasn't even ranked in the top 500. Before he could dwell on it further, the meeting room doors opened abruptly. Xuanjing City's vice mayor, Randling, walked in and demanded answers. She reminded Principal Wang that he had informed her about Su Ming's 10-star awakening, yet the dungeon data showed no trace of him. Principal Wang tried to explain, advising her to lower expectations since early combat strength was often lacking for that profession. Randling dismissed his explanation, accusing him of exaggerating Su Ming's talent to secure more Heavenly Tower Council qualification tokens. She then pointed to Yan's, a 9-star talent currently ranked second, as the best candidate to compete with the neighboring city's genius, Lin Guang. She also mentioned the Zhang family's legitimate son, Zhang Tong, who had 8-star talent and a hidden profession. After her assessment, she decided to allocate only 2 qualification tokens instead of the usual 3, citing the Academy's poor performance over the past 2 years. She warned that things would be worse next year if results didn't improve, then left without waiting for a response. After she was gone, Principal Wang stared at the tokens, disappointed. Instead of gaining an extra slot because of Su Ming's talent, the Academy had lost one. Still, he quietly placed his hopes on Su Ming, waiting for better news from the dungeon. Meanwhile, outside Red Rock Cave, Su Ming studied the map and confirmed he had arrived at the location tied to his task. The trip itself had gone smoothly, with no troublesome monsters along the way. Still, he felt cautious. This was a place he had never explored in his previous life, so whatever waited inside was a complete unknown. He stepped into the cave carefully. Without warning, a level 6 gold-digging goblin rushed out. Su Ming reacted instantly and dealt with it before it could alert the rest of the cave. That relief didn't last long. The system immediately notified him that Goblin Cave awareness had been triggered. Almost at once, large numbers of goblins began appearing, making it clear that this first profession task was far from simple. The system followed up with another message, explaining that every goblin in the cave would now attack him aggressively. Su Ming didn't waste time thinking about it. He moved through the horde, cutting them down efficiently, but the sheer volume of enemies started to add pressure. He noticed his weapon durability dropping faster than expected. As he repositioned, a large goblin tried to strike from behind. He avoided it, only to be met with coordinated arrow attacks from smaller goblins. Even with careful defense, a few arrows still struck him, confirming that these goblins were far smarter than normal. His health steadily declined, and after checking his mana, Su Ming realized it wouldn't support a long, drawn-out fight. Facing a swarm backed by an elite goblin, he adjusted his approach. Instead of forcing his way through, he pulled back and disappeared into the shadows, setting up the battlefield on his own terms. Inside the depths of Red Rock Cave, the goblins walked straight into his ambushes. One by one, they fell to clean, controlled strikes. After clearing the smaller goblins, Su Ming assessed the situation and concluded that as long as he controlled positioning and terrain, he could fully bring out the strengths of his Aido-style techniques. Before long, only the elite goblin remained standing. Outside the cave, several rookie challengers lingered near the entrance, hesitant to go in due to the difficulty. Among them were Yongding and his follower, the same pair who had lost a sword bet to Su Ming earlier. They argued quietly about whether Su Ming, or anyone else at their level, would dare enter a cave where monsters were level 7 and above. Their conversation stopped when someone exited the cave. It was Su Ming. Now level 11, he casually checked his system notifications while giving off a calm, confident presence. That confidence irritated Yongding, who rushed in from behind and tried to strike him. Su Ming stepped aside with ease, and the attack missed completely. Frustrated, Yongding ordered his lackey to block Su Ming's escape. Su Ming had no intention of leaving. As Yongding rambled about old grudges, it became clear that Su Ming barely remembered the incident that mattered so much to him. Angered by Su Ming's indifference, Yongding ordered his men to attack. Su Ming saw the moment as a perfect test. With a thought, he summoned his sword and activated sword control. The blade moved through the air under his command, pushing back his opponents with precise movements. The attackers immediately realized something was off. Sword control was usually something mid-stage sword controllers could use, not rookies. What they didn't know was that Su Ming had obtained the skill from the elite goblin and upgraded it from silver to gold using his talent. Feeling how naturally the skill responded to him, Su Ming briefly considered how fast news of this would spread. Afterward, he reviewed the rewards from clearing the cave and discovered a hidden location map. The map showed a path connecting the first profession change to the final stage, sparking his interest. As he studied it further, a new quest related to Red Rock Cave appeared, referencing goblin trade and their way of life. Elsewhere, at exactly 11:30 a.m., an all-girls rookie team efficiently cleared a group of low-level monsters. They celebrated loudly, praising their coordination. One of them thanked Fenfenzi, a 7-star awakened talent, for carrying the team. As the others examined the loot, Fenfenzi looked around and realized someone was missing. A sense of unease set in as they tried to figure out what had happened. Goblins were known to live in dark, damp environments like caves and underground tunnels, avoiding sunlight and making ambushes easy. They lived in groups, usually led by a chieftain or elder who oversaw warriors, hunters, craftsmen, and priests. Their rapid reproduction helped sustain their numbers, and Su Ming remembered learning that they sometimes targeted human women. Following the coordinates from the map, Su Ming arrived at what should have been the cave's location, only to find nothing there. He scanned the area with Eye of Insight and realized the entrance was hidden underground, concealed by thick smoke. Entering the cavern below, he soon spotted goblins moving around. He understood immediately that killing even one would alert the entire colony. Staying hidden, he searched the area for treasure. During his observation, he came across the body of a female student, confirming what he knew about goblin behavior. Soon after, he spotted Zhang Yuning, who appeared to have fallen into the same smoke trap. Unlike the other student, she was still conscious and desperately trying to keep the goblins away. Su Ming initially saw this as a chance to let her distract them while he took the treasure. As he turned to leave, he heard her shout that her sister was a vice director of the Zhang conglomerate, and that anyone who saved her would be rewarded. Realizing who she was connected to, Su Ming reconsidered. When the goblins charged again, Su Ming threw his sword into their midst and activated sword control. The blade released a powerful Aido slash, flooding the area with intense light. As creatures naturally repelled by light, the goblins scattered immediately. Since none were killed, the rest of the cave remained unaware. Yuning thanked Su Ming for saving her. He replied calmly that he had only passed by. When she tried to bring up rewards, he told her to focus on surviving and getting out of the cave first. As he moved to leave, she begged him not to abandon her. Su Ming answered firmly that she would only slow him down. Su Ming suddenly realized that the treasure was buried right beneath where they were standing. After digging it out, he decided to use his sublimation of all things talent on the chest itself. The silver tier chest was upgraded into a low-grade gold lottery chest. As the name suggested, this type of chest had a high chance of producing rare items, skill books, or equipment. When he opened it, 2 items appeared: a Shadow Flow equipment set and a platinum-grade Soul Healer skill scroll. The result wasn't what Su Ming had been expecting. After putting in extra effort, he had hoped for something far more rewarding. The shadow flow set looked useful, but the soul healer scroll stood out in an odd way since it didn't match his profession at all. Inqing spoke up, saying the scroll probably appeared because of her. She then introduced herself as a 7-star soul healer, which completely caught Su Ming off guard. Almost immediately, the system notified him that Inqing had joined his team. Elsewhere in the dungeon, Ji Yao stumbled across the bodies of fallen students. Before she could fully process what she was seeing, a student named Li noticed her and decided to target her next. She stayed alert and managed to create some distance, then concealed herself and tried to slip away. Unfortunately, she made a noise that gave her position away. Li rushed in with a heavy strike, but Yao narrowly avoided it and pulled back again. Li commented that he hadn't expected her to last this long and said maybe Xuanjing Academy wasn't completely hopeless after all. Yao asked why he was killing students from another city when his uniform clearly marked him as an outsider. Li explained that his level 10 first-class change task required him to kill 50 players. Instead of attacking his own peers, he chose what he considered an easier target. He added that her academy's reputation made them fair game. He attacked again, and Yao summoned skeletons to block him, but he cut through them with ease. Calling her weak, he pressed forward. Just as his attack was about to land, it was stopped. Yanzi appeared with his teammates and said they would protect her. Back near Red Rock Cave, Su Ming submitted the treasure fragments to the system and received confirmation that his primary class change task was complete. He was promoted to first class, and his sword strength, speed, and proficiency all increased significantly. Inqing used the Soul Healer scroll as well, unlocking advanced skills that made Su Ming pause. He concluded that her luck was unusually high. Considering what that level of luck could mean, Su Ming decided to clear the dungeon together with her. Inqing became excited and talked about how her sister had hired people to help her achieve the same goal, only for it to fail. Su Ming wasn't thrilled about the pairing, but her skills made it worthwhile. After forming the team, Su Ming received a message from Yao and chose to check on it. Meanwhile, on the battle route, Li showed that he hadn't been using his full strength. In seconds, he wiped out Yanzi's entire team and shut down Yanzi's long-range attacks with ease. From what Yanzi knew, Li was a 10-star awakened genius with a blade maniac profession. After defeating the others, Li walked toward Yanzi and Yao, complaining that he had only managed to kill 35 players so far. Yanzi commented that distance was his only chance, but that wasn't realistic right now. Yao added that she was completely out of mana and couldn't summon anything else. They both understood how bad the situation was. Li charged at Yanzi first, but Yao stepped in and blocked him, telling Yanzi to run while she held Li back. Li reacted angrily and tried to end it quickly, but his attack was stopped by a sword that appeared out of nowhere. Su Ming had arrived. Yao had warned him earlier, and instead of avoiding the area, he came straight to her. Seeing her again reminded him of the past, of how she had protected him before and paid the price for it. This time, he decided things would be different. Using sword control, Su Ming pulled his weapon back into his hand and clashed directly with Li. Li recognized him as the level 10 sword controller everyone was talking about, but didn't believe Su Ming should have the advantage. Watching from afar, Yanzi commented on how impressive Su Ming was and considered providing support. At that moment, both Yanzi and Yao felt healing magic wash over them. Inqing stepped out and introduced herself as Su Ming's teammate, leaving them stunned. Su Ming had claimed he was going solo, so seeing him with a partner stirred mixed feelings. As she continued healing them, Yanzi urged her to hurry so they could help Su Ming. Inqing calmly told him there was no need to rush, saying Su Ming was far stronger than they realized. During the exchange, Li questioned how a sword controller could move like a sword prodigy. After observing Su Ming's technique, he openly praised him and said his strength exceeded expectations. Still, Li declared that it was time to see who was truly stronger. Su Ming replied that he had heard of Li in his past life but never crossed paths with him. With that, he charged forward again, intent on testing whose blade was superior. Li launched a flying stab, which Su Ming blocked easily. Li revealed it was only bait, explaining that the attack locked opponents in place. He threw his second sword, but Su Ming countered by throwing his own and redirecting it midair with sword control. The blade shot toward Li at full speed. Li avoided the hit but was grazed. He picked up his weapon and rushed in again, only to miss repeatedly as Su Ming avoided every strike. Growing irritated, Li pressed harder, but Su Ming pulled his sword back under control, clearly toying with him. By then, Inqing had finished healing, and Yanzi and Yao rushed forward to help. When they arrived, they realized the fight was already over. As Su Ming turned to leave, Li forced himself up and used the last of his energy. Inside the blade formation, Lai Chengguang lost it. He grabbed what looked like Su Ming's battered, blood-soaked body and roared, demanding to know how someone who'd taken so many direct hits could still be alive. To him, it made no sense. Then a calm voice answered back, asking whether he was actually sure any of those attacks had landed at all. Lai Chengguang froze. The voice wasn't coming from the person in his hands. Before he could react, the body he was gripping broke apart, dissolving into streaks of blue light. That was when the truth hit him. He hadn't been fighting Su Ming at all. It had been a decoy from the very start. The real Su Ming appeared behind him, completely unharmed, now clad in sleek, dark armor that radiated an oppressive presence. His tone was relaxed as he remarked that Lai Chengguang had finally figured it out. He explained that what he'd used wasn't something a normal swordmaster could pull off. The ability came from his fully equipped platinum-grade shadow sword set. That set granted two terrifying effects. One was a surge of darkness that added defense-piercing dark damage to every strike. The other was Shadow Clone, a flawless substitute capable of fooling even seasoned fighters. Lai Chengguang's expression darkened. Equipment sets like that didn't exist in novice dungeons. There was only one possible explanation. Su Ming must have cleared his first-class advancement quest already. Su Ming didn't bother denying it. He calmly confirmed that he'd completed it a long time ago. The realization crushed Lai Chengguang. Su Ming had advanced faster than him. His teeth clenched as frustration boiled over, but by then, it was too late. The situation had completely flipped. Su Ming raised his sword and told him plainly that things were different now. This time, Lai Chengguang was the one at his mercy. The blade came down. As the final strike landed, a small blue object slipped from Lai Chengguang's hand and hit the ground, glowing faintly. Su Ming noticed it immediately, but before he could do anything, the item activated in a burst of brilliant light. From a distance, Yanzi stared in shock and called out that it was a life-saving accessory. Seeing Zhang Yunqing's confusion, he quickly explained that it allowed a player to force an emergency exit from a dungeon. Items like that were incredibly rare, worth tens of thousands of advent coins, and absolutely impossible to obtain inside a dungeon. As he spoke, Lai Chengguang's body dissolved into a pillar of blue light and vanished. Su Ming watched him escape with a look of clear disdain. He muttered that the neighboring city must have paid a ridiculous price to equip their so-called 10-star genius with something like that. Later that day, at 2 p.m., the atmosphere inside the Academy's monitoring room felt tense. One of Principal Wang's assistants stared at a data screen, her expression uneasy. The principal, sitting nearby and casually eating instant noodles, noticed and asked if the real-time rankings had updated. She shook her head and said it was something else. Pointing at a highlighted area on the dungeon map, she reported that multiple player deaths had occurred there between midnight and 2 a.m. Normally, that wouldn't be alarming, but the data showed the kills were caused by a player from outside their city's region. Principal Wang's mood instantly soured. He slammed his chopsticks down and said it looked like a neighboring city was pulling dirty tricks again. He ordered all data records to be saved immediately, then bitterly remarked that because Xuanjing Academy ranked at the bottom, they had once again become an easy target. Changing gears, he asked for an update on the students' progress. An aide reported that things were mostly going well. Most teleportation zones had been secured, and limited footage showed several strong students forming large teams and already pushing toward the final dungeon boss. Leading them was Jiang Tang, the 8-star magic hammer warrior and heir of the prestigious Jiang family. The principal nodded with approval. Since the final boss was level 12, he figured Jiang Tang's team must be closing in on level 10 already. Right on cue, another aide announced that the real-time rankings were live. As expected, Jiang Tang was nearly level 10 and tied for first place with Yanzi. Close behind were Jiang Yunqing at level 8 and Ji Yao at level 7. Then the principal frowned. He asked why he hadn't seen Su Ming's name on the list and demanded to know his current level. After an awkward pause, the answer came back. Level 2. The aide quickly explained that Su Ming had reached level 2 earlier that morning when he earned the first blood title, and that his level hadn't gone up since. But inside the dungeon at 2:30 p.m., the reality couldn't have been more different. Su Ming pulled his sword free from a fallen monster as the system confirmed the kill, an elite thorntooth beast. A second notification followed immediately, congratulating him on reaching level 14 and unlocking the appearance of his hidden armor. His teammates stared at him in disbelief. Ji, now level 8, commented on how insanely fast they'd leveled. Yanzi, already level 10, said he felt more than ready to take on the final boss. Everyone agreed their explosive growth was thanks to Jiang Yunqing's experience-boosting skill. Jiang Yunqing, who had reached level 9, added that Su Ming was the one who had given her that powerful ability in the first place. Ji happily summed it all up: the healing from Jiang Yunqing, Yanzi's long-range firepower, her own summoned creatures, and Su Ming holding everything together as their leader. Su Ming brushed it off, saying he was just tagging along and benefiting from everyone else's effort. Ji immediately shot that down, reminding him that if Su Ming hadn't stepped in earlier, she and Yanzi would have died to Lai Chengwang. Her face flushed as she confidently declared that with teamwork like theirs, beating the dungeon boss would be easy. Su Ming agreed, but then turned away. He said the ordinary dungeon boss wasn't his goal. With a confident smile, he raised a glowing crystalline key and announced that he planned to challenge the hidden boss instead. The system confirmed the item's identity. The water ripple key, something he had just obtained. To summon the hidden boss, 3 riddles had to be solved and 3 specific items collected. The first riddle spoke of a silver moon hanging over a shore. Su Ming figured it out almost instantly and led the team deeper into the forest, where enormous plants had grown into the shape of a giant crescent moon. Since the dungeon didn't have a real sky, he explained, this had to be the silver moon. He then pointed past the trees to a massive lake, saying that was where the hidden boss slept. As for the remaining riddles, Su Ming revealed he already had the iris flower, a trigger item he'd picked up the moment he entered the dungeon. Combined with the water ripple key, everything clicked into place. The item in his hand activated, forming a swirling sphere of blue energy. His teammates could only watch in stunned silence, unable to understand how he'd solved such complex riddles so quickly. Su Ming hurled the energy sphere into the lake. The water immediately began to churn, spiraling into a massive whirlpool. From its depths, 2 menacing red eyes flared open within it, locking onto the shore as the hidden boss finally emerged. As the whirlpool in the lake slowly settled, the final part of the riddle came true. From the depths, a massive figure rose into view, a red-armored knight astride an equally imposing armored steed. The moment it surfaced, a system-wide alert flashed across everyone's vision. Hidden boss appears. Lake Guardian, a lost knight. Almost instantly, system notifications popped up as Yanzi, Ji Yao, and Jiang Yunqing joined Su Ming's party. Taking his place as party leader, Su Ming scanned the battlefield with a sharp, focused gaze and told everyone to get ready. The hidden boss challenge had officially begun. But 15 minutes later, instead of clashing head-on with the boss, all 4 of them were crouched deep in tall grass. Their early confidence had completely evaporated. Yanzi whispered nervously, asking if hiding like this was really part of the plan. Ji Yao, clearly worn out, wondered if they should try attacking again. Even Su Ming was at a loss. The problem was painfully obvious as they watched the lost knight thunder across the terrain. The boss moved like a blur, its armored horse tearing through the landscape at a ridiculous speed. Su Ming stared in disbelief, muttering that killing something that fast felt impossible. Activating his eye of insight, he pulled up the boss's stats. The system panel confirmed the Lake Guardian, Lost Knight, was a level 19 monster with terrifying strength and constitution. But what truly stunned the team was one stat in particular: its mounted speed. 500. For a moment, no one spoke. Su Ming did the math in his head and grimly realized that even if they combined all their movement speed, it wouldn't come close to half of that number. Suddenly, distant screams echoed across the area. Su Ming turned just in time to see another group of students sprinting in panic, shouting in confusion about a level 19 monster appearing out of nowhere. Their escape didn't last long. The Lost Knight closed the gap effortlessly and cut one of them down in a single, brutal swing. Watching from the grass, Su Ming noted grimly that this was already the third nearby group to be wiped out. The pressure settled heavily on his shoulders. They couldn't ignore the boss any longer. After all, they were the ones who had summoned it. Right then, Ji Yao returned from her task. She quickly reported that, just as instructed, they'd used all their party's mana potions to set up a delayed trap. Su Ming thanked her and immediately told Yanzi and Zhang Yunqing to move into position. As his team spread out, Su Ming took a moment to reflect. In his previous life, he'd never challenged this hidden boss. Most new players avoided it entirely, and since the dungeon could only be entered once, very few people ever learned its true mechanic. Even the records he'd found back then only vaguely mentioned the riddles and summoning method. None of them had warned him about a mount with 500 speed. With a hard look in his eyes, Su Ming reached a conclusion. If they wanted to kill the Lost Knight, they had to deal with the horse first. Knocking the knight off its mount was the only option. Once the plan was set, the team moved without hesitation. From a high vantage point, Yanzi made the first move. He activated his multiple hunting shot skill, sending a rain of green, energy-infused arrows down toward the charging boss. The arrows struck true, but barely scratched the knight's armor. Its level 5 heavy armor mastery absorbed most of the damage with ease. From his cliffside position, Yanzi called out that he'd successfully drawn the boss's aggro. Zhang Yunqing, breathing heavily, responded that she was ready on her end. Down on the ground, right along the knight's charging path, she fanned a small flame. In seconds, thick smoke billowed outward, forming a massive smoke screen. Watching from concealment, Su Ming followed each step closely. First, Yanzi's long-range attacks pulled the boss in. Second, Zhang Yunqing's smoke would block its vision. He silently praised her timing, recognizing the tactic as one he'd picked up back when studying goblin combat method. Just as planned, the Lost Knight rode straight into the dense smoke. Blinded, it slowed, its movements becoming cautious. That was the opening. The ground suddenly exploded upward as Ji Yao's trap activated. Using her summoned skeleton horde ability, dozens of skeletal warriors clawed their way out of the earth, wrapped in flickering purple energy. They immediately swarmed the horse, grabbing its legs and dragging it down. Ji Yao focused intently, amazed at how effective the strategy was. Her summoning skill could be combined with trap magic to unleash overwhelming numbers all at once. The Lost Knight struck back, smashing skeletons apart, but the horde kept coming. Then another attack hit. A twisting wave of blue energy slammed into the knight, throwing it off balance. From her hiding spot, Zhang Yunqing had cast her Soul Siphon slow spell, stacking yet another debuff onto the boss. Su Ming watched the final phase of the plan fall perfectly into place. Ji Yao's skeletons had immobilized the horse, while Zhang Yunqing's magic was locking down the knight itself. A confident smile tugged at Su Ming's lips. He admitted to himself that without his teammates working together like this, taking down such a monster would have been nearly impossible. Taking full advantage of the opening his teammates created, Su Ming burst from his hiding spot and shot straight toward the exposed Lost Knight. He grabbed the knight by the arm and yanked with everything he had, shouting for it to get off the horse as he ripped it free from the saddle. The massive body flew through the air and slammed into a cluster of trees with a deafening crash. The Lake Guardian staggered, then slowly pushed itself upright, fury burning in its gaze now that it stood unmounted. From a distance, a breathless Ji Yao let out a relieved shout, saying they'd actually done it. They'd knocked the boss off its horse. But her tone quickly turned serious as she warned everyone not to relax. This was only the first phase. Earlier, she'd already voiced her concerns to Su Ming. She'd pointed out that both she and Zhang Yun King would burn through all their mana just setting up the trap. Even if the plan worked, they wouldn't have anything left to fight afterward. Su Ming's response back then had been calm and confident. He'd smiled and told her not to worry. When the time came, she just needed to leave everything to him. And now, that moment had arrived. Facing the lost knight head-on, Su Ming drew his sword and declared, with a steady smile, that he'd handle the rest alone. He rushed forward, launching into a brutal exchange. His strikes came fast and heavy, forcing the knight into defense as it struggled to keep up. The clash between Su Ming and the Lake Guardian was savage. Their weapons collided again and again, each impact sending shockwaves rippling through the forest. Watching from afar, Yanzi was stunned. He couldn't believe Su Ming was going toe-to-toe with a hidden boss by himself. Instinctively, he wanted to jump in, but Ji Yao grabbed his arm and stopped him. She reminded him that Su Ming had been clear about this. They were supposed to trust him and focus on their own task. Back in the fight, Su Ming activated Divine Shadow Step. A surge of red energy wrapped around his body, and in an instant, he vanished, only to reappear behind the lost knight. He unleashed a relentless barrage of slashes, each one faster than the last, slipping past the knight's counterattacks with ease. He even commented that the boss felt slow. Su Ming realized that once separated from its mount, the lost knight's true speed was shockingly low. The system confirmed it moments later. While its strength and constitution were still high, its on-foot speed was only 55, a glaring weakness. Seeing the opening, Su Ming pressed harder. He swung again and declared that without its horse, the so-called hidden boss wasn't all that special. Dark energy swirled around his hand as he gathered power for a finishing strike, grinning as he shouted for the knight to fall. The blow landed squarely in the knight's chest. And barely did anything. Its health bar barely moved, the heavy armor soaking up the damage almost effortlessly. The lost knight answered immediately, bringing its massive sword crashing down in a devastating counterattack. Su Ming rolled away just in time, the impact splitting the ground where he'd stood. As he regained his footing, a system alert flashed. His weapon's durability had dropped to a critical 7%. Su Ming glanced at his sword, concern flickering across his face. With durability that low, his damage output was heavily reduced. Breaking through that armor like this would be nearly impossible. Forced onto the defensive, he admitted to himself that the knight's heavy armor was a serious problem. The lost knight noticed it too. Instead of continuing the assault, it turned and began moving through the forest, clearly searching for something. Su Ming called out, asking if it was looking for its horse. He mocked it, saying it was smart to realize that mounted speed was its greatest strength. Then he smiled and added that it was too bad. His teammates had already taken care of that. Elsewhere in the forest, the armored steed was thrashing wildly, letting out distressed cries as it struggled against its restraints. Yanzi and Ji Yao were working together to keep it under control. Yanzi shouted at the beast to stop fighting while urging Ji Yao to keep slowing it with her magic. Ji Yao gritted her teeth and said holding the horse was critical. This was exactly what Su Ming had entrusted to them. Earlier, he'd made it clear. Once the knight was separated from its mount, the rest of the team had a single mission. Leave the boss to him and do whatever it took to keep the horse from ever reuniting with its rider. Su Ming unleashed a rapid series of slashing attacks, his sword flashing non-stop as he pressured the lost knight. From a distance, every strike flew straight and true, crashing directly into the knight's armor. As he attacked, Su Ming kept advancing bit by bit, smoothly closing the gap and landing ahead of his opponent. The lost knight endured the barrage, then finally raised his sword and activated a skill. A surge of power rippled out as he unleashed Howling Water Blade, sending heavy, wave-like sword energy roaring toward Su Ming. Seeing this, Su Ming slipped aside with ease, dodging while tossing out a mocking remark that the knight actually knew how to use a few skills after all. Even as he spoke, His movements never slowed, his body weaving cleanly through the incoming attacks. Right then, the Lost Knight charged straight at him, sword lifted high and ready to strike. As the attack came in, Su Ming activated sword control, shifting tactics instantly. The sword broke free from his grip and began moving on its own, spinning wildly and striking from every direction. Blades of force hammered the Lost Knight again and again, leaving him no breathing room. Mid-assault, a system notification popped up. Su Ming's weapon durability had dropped to just 3%. He glanced at it but didn't stop. The attacks continued, forcing the Lost Knight to stagger backwards step by step. At the same time, Su Ming carefully checked the condition of the knight's heavy armor. Judging from the damage, it was on the verge of breaking. He told himself he couldn't afford to waste what little durability remained. Still controlling the sword, Su Ming kept up the pressure from all sides before suddenly pulling the blade back to his hand. Gripping it tightly, he rushed forward and launched another direct strike. The Lost Knight reacted quickly, raising his sword, slipping past the attack, and breaking through Su Ming's guard. His blade shot forward, stabbing straight into Su Ming's chest. The moment the hit landed, something strange happened. Su Ming's body, and the Lost Knight's grasp, began to fade from behind. A calm voice echoed across the battlefield, remarking that this move worked just as well on players as it did on monsters. The figure in the Lost Knight's hands slowly vanished, erased bit by bit. At the same time, the real Su Ming stepped out from the side, activating his full-body equipment set and preparing to strike. With clear satisfaction, he commented that he really liked this set. Without wasting a second, Su Ming activated sword control again. The sword left behind with the clones suddenly came alive, attacking the Lost Knight from every direction. The Lost Knight struggled desperately, trying to dodge the relentless strikes. In that brief opening, Su Ming appeared behind him and slammed his attack into the armor, declaring that the heavy armor was finally broken. Another system alert followed. His weapon durability had fully dropped to 0. The sword had completely worn out. Even so, Su Ming didn't hesitate. Activating Shadow Blade, he launched one final attack, his voice turning cold as he stated that it was over. The scene then shifted to Chuang Academy. Teacher Wang entered the communication room, and someone immediately announced that Principal Wang had arrived. As Principal Wang stepped inside and saw the other academy principals already chatting, he spoke in a serious tone, noting that it looked like they had been there for quite a while. A voice from the channel replied casually that they'd only just arrived, teasing that Principal Wang was simply the last one to show up. Another principal chimed in, asking if something was wrong. Perhaps no one from Shuangjing Academy had challenged the beginner dungeon boss yet. As usual, they said, clearance results only started coming in after 3 in the afternoon. A third voice joined in, openly mocking him and saying Shuangjing Academy was always dead last anyway, so it hardly mattered when he showed up. Listening to them, Principal Wang replied firmly that his delay had nothing to do with dungeon progress. He explained that he'd received real-time dungeon data instead. After checking the information, he revealed that players from outside their academy had sneaked into Shuangjing Academy's beginner dungeon, and that the intruder hadn't been identified yet. He sharply stated that he was certain the culprit was from one of the other 3 city academies. He directly accused Old Zai of stirring trouble and added coldly that the victims had been killed using blade-based skills. He mentioned hearing that Wei Ning Academy's genius, Lai Chuanguang, specialized in blade weapons. The moment that name came up, Lai Chuanguang's academy principal erupted in anger, shouting that accusations without evidence were unacceptable. He insisted that Lai Chuanguang was currently leading the assault on their own beginner dungeon's final boss and claimed they would clear it in under half an hour. After that, the other principals began reporting their progress as well. One said Dongling Academy already had 3 groups strong enough to challenge the boss. Another confidently added that Nangang Academy had pushed the boss into its second phase and that, if things stayed steady, clearance news would arrive soon. Principal Wang listened in silence, his thoughts heavy. It was clear the other academies were making smooth progress, and every second mattered. He pulled a token from his pocket, his expression growing grim as he thought about the consequences. If his academy failed to achieve first clear this year, they would only receive 2 Tower Society entry tokens, the lowest number in their history. Right now, the person closest to clearing a boss was Jiang Tang, and everything depended on his strength. The scene shifted back to the dungeon, where students from Chuang Academy fought monsters alongside Jiang Tang. Jiang Tang shouted for everyone to advance together, urging them not to hold back and to use every skill they had to bring down the final boss. Their opponent was the King of the Raging Forest, a level 15 monster. It rampaged across the battlefield, cutting down students who came too close and spreading destruction without mercy. As the fight dragged on, some students began retreating, panic creeping into their voices as they shouted that they stood no chance and that their levels were too low. Jiang Tang stared straight at the monster, clenched his teeth, and refused to back down. He declared that retreat wasn't an option, they'd already come too far. Standing before the monster, Zhang Wang's thoughts drifted elsewhere. He remembered the messages he had received earlier on his phone. They were from Xiaoman asking him for help. He had asked what happened, wondering if it was related to Su Ming. Xiaoman replied that Su Ming had hurt her. He then asked where she was, telling her he would go find her. Her final message stayed in his mind the most. She talked about revenge and asked him to help her get it. Those words fueled his anger. Zhang Wang stepped forward and shouted that he would take the final reward and avenge Xiaoman. Just as he was about to attack, the monster suddenly began to fade away. He couldn't make sense of what was happening. At that moment, every player in the dungeon received a system notification. As soon as they read it, everyone went quiet. The message announced that the hidden boss had already been defeated and congratulated all squad players for slaying it. It also informed everyone that they would soon be returning home. The scene then shifted to Su Ming, who had already finished the fight, confirming that everything was finally over. Nearby, one of his teammates, Jie Yao, stared at the notification and said with certainty that it had to be Su Ming, saying he must have successfully swallowed the boss. Once the hidden boss was defeated, the outside world received the update as well. The dungeon portal began to glow. Inside the communication room, Principal Wang and the principals of the 3 academies saw the notification too and started talking at once. One wondered if Lengguang had succeeded. Another said it must have been Dongling Academy. A third insisted it had to be Nonggang Academy. Wang turned to check the results himself. When he saw the name of his academy on the screen, his eyes widened. Back where Su Ming was, Ji Yao ran over and excitedly told him how incredible he was. At that moment, Su Ming's level had reached 16, jumping up by 2 levels at once. The system quickly sent him a notification congratulating him on reaching level 16. His teammates gathered around him. Su Ming told them to hurry and said that while the dungeon exit hadn't opened yet, they should distribute the rewards from the hidden boss. Yan Zi spoke up first, saying he didn't want any rewards and was already satisfied just from leveling up. Jiang Yunqing agreed and thanked Su Ming for saving her life. Jie Yao looked at the two of them as Yan Zi continued, saying that from being saved from Lai Chengwang's blade, to uncovering the secret of the hidden boss, and finally watching Su Ming defeated alone, he felt like he hadn't been able to help at all. That was why taking the loot made him feel uneasy. Before he could finish, a reward notification appeared for him. It announced that Yan Zi had received the spirit-suppressing Rot Siphon Bow, with a level requirement of 20, meant for rangers proficient in bows. The effect allowed spirit to be consumed so that each arrow fired gained a random enchantment. Right after that, Jiang Yunqing received her reward notification. She obtained the Heart Soul Necklace, which increased soul power storage and absorption efficiency, exclusive to the soul healer profession. Then Jie Yao received her reward as well. The Blood Armor Undead Summoning Scroll, which allowed her to summon the Blood-Armored Undead Knight, with its strength based on her own attribute. After seeing all of this, Su Ming smiled and said that the hidden boss loot matched each of their professions perfectly. He explained that this meant it wasn't just him who recognized them as part of the team that defeated the hidden boss. The dungeon itself acknowledged them too. He added that without their help, the challenge would never have been completed. A voice echoed throughout the dungeon, congratulating all challengers for clearing the F-rank dungeon, Raging Tide Forest, and announcing the total time spent inside. Hearing this, Su Ming told his teammates that time was up and it was time to leave. The exit portal had already opened behind them. As he walked toward the portal, Su Ming explained that once a dungeon was cleared, it entered the settlement phase. Contribution rewards for every participant would be settled in the real world after exiting, and an exit portal would appear beside every surviving player. With a small smile, he said they had all done well and that everyone was still alive, meaning the challenge was a success. Later, at around 4:30 in the afternoon, students began emerging from the portal one after another. Officials checked each person to confirm they had safely exited the dungeon. Many students came out crying. Some were badly injured, while others broke down after losing friends or family during the challenge. One student sobbed that only about 10 people from their class had made it back. Su Ming's team witnessed all of this. Yan Zi spoke quietly, saying he was the only one from his original group who survived. Ji Yao said the same had happened to her. Jiang Yunqing nodded and said it was the same for her too. Hearing this, Su Ming became serious and said that since the Day of Awakening, the world had changed into this kind of place. He described it as a world ruled by the awakened, where survival depended on strength and only those who kept challenging themselves could stand firm. He said some people were grieving lost comrades, relatives and loved ones, while others were celebrating the power and rewards they gained. This was the reality of the world they lived in now. At that moment, the principal appeared on the screen and congratulated all students for surviving the novice dungeon. He said this was their first challenge after awakening and also the Academy's final lesson to them as graduate. He reminded them that awakening didn't just mean power, money, and honor, but also responsibility, care, and peace. He told those who had lost loved ones to remember their pain, and those who had won to remember their responsibility. Everyone listened in silence. Jie Yao then looked at Su Ming and asked whether he felt sad or happy, knowing how many students had lost their lives under these rules. Su Ming replied in a low voice that those students would be resurrected. Almost at the same time, the principal spoke again, saying that everyone should find their own values on the path of the awakened. He explained that this was the true meaning of the novice dungeon and announced that all classmates, relatives, and lovers who were lost would be resurrected within 30 minutes. The crowd was completely stunned, unsure if what they were hearing was real. The principal confirmed that they would return from the dungeon to everyone's side. Ji Yao looked at Su Ming in shock, wondering how he had known all of this in advance. The dungeon interface finished counting everything, and the system slid straight into reward settlement. Names began flashing across the screen one after another. Rewards were handed out based on performance, and advent coins were distributed as more students appeared in sequence. Then Su Ming's name came up. His record instantly stood apart. The system listed every target he had taken down: gray-backed wild wolves, a mutated ape, minor and elite goblins, spike-tooth beasts, and an elite spike-tooth beast. On top of that, he had cleared a hidden boss, completed his junior profession change quest, and passed through the Red Rock Cave without taking a single hit. Because of that, he earned both the dungeon's first kill achievement and the perfect clear title. His final evaluation landed firmly at S rank. All the results stacked together. His title updated to Rookie King, granting a flat boost to all attributes and increasing skill proficiency across the board. His dungeon contribution rate settled at 91%. Right then, someone walked in. Without even lifting his head, the principal commented that the student was late. He formally announced that Su Ming ranked first in both school-wide and city-wide novice dungeon result. Su Ming replied casually that he had overslept. As if on cue, the level rankings appeared. Su Ming sat alone in first place at level 16. Second place was shared by Xiang Xuan and Yan Zi, both at level 12. Zhang Yungying followed at level 11. Ji Yao ranked 4th at level 10, with Liang Guang and Sun Xiang trailing behind. Seeing the list, Su Ming figured his time at the academy was basically over. There was no point in staying low-key anymore. He didn't bother hiding his data. Later on, the difference between him and the others would be massive anyway. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed something was off. The principal was holding onto his leg. Su Ming looked down and asked how long he planned to stay there. The principal, clearly riding an emotional high, thanked him outright. He admitted he didn't know how Su Ming had pulled it off, but after years of sitting at the bottom, Xuanjing Academy had finally turned things around. He talked excitedly about a rival principal from Wying Academy who used to mock him non-stop, only to end up speechless this time. Xuanjing Academy now ranked first among the 4 nearby cities. When the principal added that Su Ming was number 1 across all Academy's novice dungeons, Su Ming asked where Wying Academy's top genius had placed. The answer came quickly. Lai Chengwang only managed 3rd, supposedly because an accident left him injured and slowed down his boss clear. That led to the real question. The principal pointed out that Su Ming was a sword controller, a role known for struggling early on. He had no powerful background and no money for top-tier equipment, yet he still managed to take down a hidden boss above his level. In all his years as principal, he'd never seen anything like it. Su Ming kept things simple. He said it came down to luck. Good drops, useful skills, and solid teammates. Without them, he couldn't have cleared the hidden boss. Internally, he knew there was no chance he could explain Rebirth. The principal bought the explanation and praised him as both strong and reliable. He added that the top 5 students had already claimed their rewards, and Ji Yao had spoken highly of Su Ming after teaming up with him. Su Ming stepped forward slightly, remembering how Ji Yao had messaged him earlier that morning and how he'd declined. He already knew she would talk him up like this, and it made him uncomfortable. Then the principal tossed something his way. Su Ming caught it and immediately recognized it, the Sky Tower Assembly token. Laughing, the principal explained that Su Ming's performance forced even the vice mayor to reallocate more tokens to their academy. This year, 5 students qualified: Su Ming, Ji Yao, Yan Zi, Jiang Yunqing, and Zhang Xuan. When the principal started explaining the token's importance, Su Ming stopped him and said he already understood. In his mind, everything was clear. The Sky Tower Assembly was the fast lane for awakened students. After clearing the novice dungeon, most people could only grind junior dungeons slowly, taking risks for limited growth. Sky Tower qualifiers were different. The rewards were faster, richer, and far more impactful. In his previous life, missing this chance early had cost him dearly. This time, he planned to grab everything he could. The principal straightened up and formally congratulated him on graduating from Xuanjing Academy. He warned that future challenges wouldn't allow retries and every choice would carry real consequences. Su Ming smiled, shook his hand, and thanked him. The scene shifted to the wealthy district of Quanjing City. Jiang Yunqing had just walked through the door when her father rushed over and pulled her into a hug, relieved she'd returned safely and proud of her third-place finish. Her elder sister smiled and admitted the credit wasn't hers this time. She said an awakened student named Su Ming had stepped in at a critical moment. Yunqing agreed, explaining how she nearly failed the dungeon after an accident until Su Ming showed up. He saved her, shared strong skill books and equipment, and helped her clear the dungeon smoothly. Her sister added that she'd tried to hire Su Ming earlier, but he'd refused even with a high offer. Somehow, they still ended up meeting inside the dungeon. Their father rubbed his forehead, amused by how highly they both spoke of Su Ming. He decided they owed him a proper thank you and admitted he wanted to meet such a capable awakened student himself. He told Zolan to look into Su Ming's contact information and announced a celebratory dinner. Before he finished speaking, his phone rang. he answered casually, ready to dismiss it, until the voice on the other end changed his expression. He was told that assassins had been targeting their people over the past 2 days. When he asked who was behind it, the answer came immediately. The Xiang family. 2 days later, Su Ming received a call from Ji Yao. She reminded him that they were heading to the Sky Tower realm together and warned him not to run off alone again. Su Ming replied that he was ready and would meet them shortly. After hanging up, he recalled the principal's explanation. To reach the Sky Tower assembly, all he had to do was activate the token and summon the portal. Only qualified holders could enter. He took out the token and activated it. A portal opened in front of him, and the system confirmed his qualification. Stepping through, Su Ming set his sights on the next challenge. The 100-layer tower rose before him. In his previous life, he'd only arrived here much later. This time, he was early. After verifying his identity, the doors opened, revealing a massive hall filled with challengers from all over. The space felt even larger than he remembered. A system message instructed new arrivals to wait for the opening ceremony. As he walked forward, he wondered why the layout felt different. Then someone called his name. Ji Yao, Yanzi, and Jiang Yunqing were already there. Su Ming remarked that they arrived early. Ji Yao shot back that they'd been waiting a long time and complained about his habit of acting alone. She pointed out that surviving the novice dungeon together had made them teammates. Since they were the only ones from Xuanjing Academy who qualified, sticking together made sense. Before the conversation could continue, another voice cut in from behind. Zhang Wang charged forward, swinging at Su Ming and accusing him of disappearing during the dungeon. Su Ming sidestepped easily. The crowd reacted immediately as Zhang Wang summoned his weapon and shouted about settling the score over Xiaoman. Ji Yao asked what was going on, but Zhang Wang ignored her and declared that since Su Ming had qualified too, he'd end things here. Su Ming laughed lightly and told him to calm down. Whatever mess he had with Xiaoman didn't belong here. Before Zhang Wang could move again, a warning echoed through the hall. A bolt of lightning struck him, and the system announced that disrupting the Sky Tower assembly was forbidden. From the floor, Zhang Wang glared at Su Ming and told him to wait. Su Ming replied calmly that someone above was watching, and they could deal with things properly after the assembly. As the crowd dispersed, people whispered that even without visible hosts, the tower was clearly monitoring everything. A red-haired challenger glanced their way and walked on. Su Ming signaled his team to follow him toward the upper seating area. Ji Yao asked why they weren't waiting for the ceremony like everyone else. Su Ming told her the ceremony was just guidance for newcomers. The real key was the seats. Ji Yao pointed out that this was his first time too. Su Ming told her to sit quietly and watch. The moment they did, a system interface appeared in front of them. Su Ming noted that the Sky Tower Assembly Selection System had activated. Ji Yao stared at the screen, completely stunned. The system announcement welcoming all new challengers to the Sky Tower Assembly initiation. The 100-layer tower challenge was officially live. Su Ming quickly caught on, reading it as the tower climbed, starting right away to clear stages. Nearby, Ji Yao noticed her interface light up too and casually mentioned that hers was active as well. Jiang Yunqing didn't waste time either, turning back to Yan Zhe and telling him they should hurry up and take their seat. Su Ming laid it out for everyone. He explained that how far they climbed in the 100-layer tower would directly decide their ranking when it came time to officially enter the assembly later on. Ji Yao processed that for a second, realizing this was basically a tower climbing competition. Su Ming confirmed it. Higher floors meant better final grades, and if people reached the same floor, things came down to speed and how hard the challenges were. He pointed out that this meant they could move earlier than everyone else and grab an advantage. With an easy smile, Su Ming explained that the opening ceremonies weren't just for show. They were actually part of the test. The Sky Tower Assembly wanted to see who could read the situation, adapt fast, and act without being told. Then Su Ming asked the real question. Did the three of them want to keep teaming up with him like they had back in the novice dungeon? Yanzei explained it straight up. Back in the novice dungeon, taking down the hidden boss had mostly been Su Ming carrying the whole fight. The rest of them were basically riding along, yet still ended up leveling way higher than they should have. He admitted they'd leaned way too hard on Su Ming's power. Someone with Su Ming's strength clearly had bigger goals ahead, bigger stages to clear. With a light smile, Yanzei added that this time, he wanted to train using his own strength and actually grow stronger on his own. Ji Yao agreed with him. She said this was their chance for a real trial. If they wanted better odds this time, then aside from Su Ming, the rest of them should form a three-person team. She turned to Jiang Yunqing and asked if she was willing. Jiang Yunqing hesitated, letting out a quiet sound as she thought it over. Then she agreed. Looking at Ji Yao, something inside her settled. She went from unsure to fired up, saying she was in. She said she needed to learn how to rely on her own ability to. With that, the decision was locked in. The system immediately updated. Su Ming was listed as choosing a solo tower climb, while the other three registered as a three-person team. Off to the side, Li Chengwang observed everything calmly. Now he understood the situation. His thoughts lingered on one name, Su Ming, the 10-star standout. He reminded himself that their previous clash hadn't settled anything yet. The system announced that all team options were confirmed, and the 100-layer tower challenge officially began. Su Ming said he'd head out first and told everyone to aim for strong result. Yanzei wished him luck, and Jiang Yunqing promised they'd do their best too. Light flared as teleportation kicked in. Su Ming's challenger info appeared, ID 001, the first to enter the 100-layer tower. Another system message followed, stating that the first opponent of the first layer would be the angry one. Su Ming glanced downward, confidence obvious in his expression. He figured this round would be easy, nothing worth stressing over. Then his expression shifted. The system revealed the opponent's name. Qingyuan Free-Range Chicken. A lone chicken stood there quietly, letting out a soft sound as it faced him. Su Ming stared at it, confusion crossing his mind. He couldn't help wondering why this challenge felt so different compared to his previous life. He picked up the chicken, still trying to process what he was seeing. There was no way the first layer monster was supposed to be something like this. He clearly remembered that the first time he challenged this tower in his past life, the monster on the first layer had been a level 5 beast called the purple-furred fiend tiger. This situation, though, felt completely off. To Su Ming, it almost seemed like the 100-layer tower was treating him like a beginner. Then the system displayed the chicken's level. Instead of a number, it showed question mark. The unclear level felt unusual, and he couldn't tell what it meant. With no clear information, he decided the safest option was to end it quickly. Before he could act, the chicken suddenly flapped its wings and slipped out of his grip. In the next moment, Su Ming was sent flying backward, hitting the ground hard. Lying there, he finally understood that this opponent wasn't ordinary at all. The chicken landed smoothly and faced him again, body tensed and ready. Then it leapt straight toward Su Ming with full force. The scene shifted as an announcement echoed through the space. It declared that the opening ceremony for this session's 100-layer tower rookie challenge had officially ended. In a separate area, a woman stood watching the display screen. She reacted right away, surprised that a floor ranking had already appeared on the leaderboard. From her point of view, it made no sense. Someone was already pushing through the tower? The commentary had only just wrapped up, yet the rankings were already moving. The leaderboard refreshed, clearly showing the top spot. First place, Challenger ID 002. The name followed right after Li Chengwang, the famous 10-star genius from Wuyang City. The system noted that he had already cleared the second layer. The scene jumped forward as Su Ming swung his blade at the chicken without hesitation, but the chicken shifted its body at the last moment, avoiding the hit cleanly. Before Su Ming could reset his stance, the chicken rushed in. its beak shot straight toward him with surprising speed. Su Ming reacted just in time, twisting his body aside so the attack missed him by a narrow margin,